So I didn't record the warm-up, so those of you guys who are at home, that you guys could go ahead and check the warm-up there for distance and midpoint. So the big thing with distance and midpoint, though, again, is understanding what we're doing. We're finding the distance between or the midpoint between. The next couple problems are going to be just talking about midpoint, but they're worded strangely. And so it's like they give you the answer and you have to find part of the question, so almost like a Jeopardy scenario. So we're going to look at the next two examples, and again, I'll show you a faster way and then a longer, like a fast way and then like probably the more methodical way. And you can decide how you guys prefer, but then also I'm going to show you guys one that the numbers are a little bit more tricky, so you might need that longer way. So that being said, we're going to look at example 1 here. So if you look quickly, you might just see so this is a great example of not reading the question. I see the word midpoint, I see 2 points, I'm just going to find the midpoint of it. It's not that easy. So we want to take a minute to look at this. It says find the coordinates of the missing endpoint, E. Oh, wait, if E is the midpoint of DF. So what they're telling us in this case, and I'm not going to draw this on a coordinate grid, I'm just going to draw a straight line just to save time and not have to worry about doing some crazy. So what I have is I have a midpoint, but they're not telling me both endpoints. So they're telling me E is the midpoint of DF. So DF is our segment, and E is our midpoint. But now why this is important is because if you look at what they've given us, they haven't given us what the point D actually is. They've told me E, and they've told me F. And they want me to find D. They want me to find a coordinate point. So a little bit different problem, and like I said, there's a fast, easy way to do this, but that only works if the question is set up really well. So like I'll show you guys that way, but I'm also going to show you what I call like the longer way or more methodical way of doing it as well. Does anyone see anything that they can notice or kind of like that you would try to do first in this problem, or do you see already what you can do? Yeah, Griffin?
Find the difference for the midpoint.
Yeah, so he's saying, like, I can tell how far apart these two are, so I should be able to see how far that is, because this is the halfway. So, and when you do this, you want to look at each of the points, look at the x's individually. Now, it might help if this was on a coordinate system, but if I think about it, if -6 is in the middle, -5 is over here, what would have to be over there?
-4.
What's it?
-4.
No, negative. Yeah, do you see? So counting 5, 6, 7. So this would be -7. And it's okay, that's a really common mistake. So and again, I'll show you how to do it the long way in case you're worried that you might do something wrong here. Now this one, 4 is in the middle, and we have -3. Yeah.
11.
So this is 7 apart, or I have to go, I guess I should say -7. So these are 7, the distance between those are 7. So I'm going to go 7 this way. So that would make this 11. Now some of you guys are totally understand, that makes a ton of sense. I'll show you in a minute that doesn't work for every type of problem unless you're really, really good at decimals. So if you're I don't understand what he just did there, let's talk about how to do this kind of the longer way. And to be honest, my own children sometimes drive me a little crazy because they do things this way all the time. And I am this totally methodical, step-by-step math teacher who does things probably the longer way than I need to make sure it's right. So both Peyton and Griffin don't always do things the way I would choose to do them. And so sometimes they drive me crazy because they think differently than me. But just know that that doesn't mean that's the only way. So, so in this case, I'm going to show you guys the other way to do this. So what we're going to do, and if you're good on this way, you're fine. You can kind of ignore us for a second here. I just asked you kind of hang with us, though, just to see it. So this is going to be our, so let's pretend we don't know that. So I'm gonna call this x1, y1. I'm gonna call this x2, y2. And this is what we call the midpoint. So if I'm setting up this formula for my midpoint, is I typically, over here we have it written, the midpoint formula, is I add the x's together and divide by 2. So I'm going to take our x and add a -5 and divide it by 2. I'm going to do the same thing with the y's. So I'm going to take the y, I'm going to add it with this one and divide it by 2. The thing is, I know what these two equal. I know the answer for the midpoint. I know it's -6, 4. So I know that's what this whole thing is going to equal. So what I can do is I can set up 2 equations to solve this. I'm going to set up an equation that says this has to equal that. And I'm going to set up an equation that says this has to equal that. Now again, if you're good with Griffin's way, you don't have to do it this way. In a second, I don't know, I might challenge him enough that the next problem he might want to do it this way. But when it's obvious like this, see, there he is. It's obvious like this, then sometimes you might want to just go the fast way, but if it's not, doesn't make sense to you that way, let's try it this other way. So what I'm saying is this, x plus a -5, x minus 5 over 2, that should equal what? It should equal -6. So this becomes a little equation I can solve. And when I look at this one, I have y minus 3 over 2. That should equal 4. And last week I did a warm-up question with you guys that asked you guys to solve problems that look like this. Do you guys remember what we did to solve this? What did we do to solve this problem?
Didn't you divide by 2 on both sides?
We said dividing by 2 is a little bit of a pain because there'd be fractions then. So what could we do instead of dividing by 2? We're going to multiply by 2. We're going to get rid of that 2. So you were almost there, Liv.
Yeah.
-6 times 2 is a -12. Then move the 5 over. So x ends up being with -7, which was what Griffin told us about like 20 minutes ago. But, like I said, this is a little more methodical. And again, on the back side, I'm going to show you guys a problem that's a little more complicated because it's decimals. And it might be helpful to try this way. Let's finish this last one though here, before you guys flip the page if you haven't already. So those cancel, so y minus 3 equals 8. Move the 3 over, so y ends up being 11. And again, that's what we got. So when you're ready, we're going to flip the page over. I'm going to show you guys, I put this one in here because it is more difficult. I probably wouldn't give you guys one like this necessarily, like on a test. But this is just trying to get you to realize why maybe you'd want to do it the longer way. Now, again, Griffin's already plugging along there, and I think he can do it the short way, and that's fine. But this one I probably would do the longer way just because I think it's easier to explain. So this next one, again, we don't know D, and we want to find that. So in this case, so E is the midpoint of DF. They tell me E. They tell me F. And I don't even know that I like looked up these might not work out to be nice numbers at all. I think they're kind of crazy decimals, that's fine. And I need to find D. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to try this what I call it the longer way. I think it just makes a little bit more sense, like to someone maybe who doesn't just see it as clearly initially. So this is my x, and then this is going to be my like x2. Here's my y, here's my y2. So remember with midpoint, I add them together and divide by 2. So I'm taking x and I'm adding it to the other endpoint, and I'm dividing it by 2. And there's my comma in the middle. I'm taking the y, and I'm adding it to the other y, and then dividing by 2. But I know what these equal. I know the answer to the problem. I'm just trying to kind of find the question. Again, like in Jeopardy, where you say what is, like the mid or the end point is, and we're trying to figure that out. So they gave me the answers already. I'm trying to find the x value that makes that answer work. Are we okay with that? That's set up there. So everything where I put everything else, and I'm going to write now 2 equations to show this. So I'm going to write an equation first with these. So I'm trying to find my x first, and I know what the x part of the midpoint is, and so that's what this is going to equal. What's up?
Nothing.
So, sorry. I'm taking the 2 endpoints, adding them together, dividing by 2. It should equal what the midpoint is, the x coordinate of the midpoint. And now again, this is just an algebra problem, so I'm going to multiply each side by 2. So we get a negative 4.6 over here, I believe. And then we're going to move that 3.1 over. Was this one more complicated for you, Griff? What? So we got a negative 7.7. I did see you erasing, so, right? I got a negative 7.7, don't you got? No. Okay. Did I do something wrong, guys? Are we okay? Those of you guys who are doing it my way versus Griffin's way. All right, and then we have y minus 9.7 divided by 2 is going to equal this negative 1.9. So again, I'm going to multiply each side by 2. What's that? Negative 3.8. And then I'm going to add 9.7. At 5.9. You got the 5.9, yeah. You like Griffin's Way better? Yeah, it's not really Griffin's Way, it's just
a lot.
and yeah, and so some of you guys, like, if it works for you, I don't care what method you use. Like, again, it's just the only thing with that way is I think it's, I don't know why. I think they're fine either way. So that's the other endpoint is those 2. And again, what he was doing there, just to kind of, he found how far apart these 2 were, and he went the other direction that far. He found out how far apart these 2 were, and then he went the other direction that far. So however you guys go about this, I don't really care as long as you guys are getting yourself to the right answer. So I showed 2 different ways. I'd be glad to explain it more if you're stuck on anything. So either way is fine with me. I'm not, like, no offense taken either way, okay? So the homework is listed there for you guys. It's a little bit different where I kind of pick and choose around some questions. So there's some odds, but then there's also some evens. So just that you guys know they're chosen specifically then. So, and I think the pages should be in the book.